In my video earlier today, I covered Paul Mashatile defending BEE and basically claiming that anyone who is against BEE, anyone who is against transformation in South Africa, is just arguing for a return to apartheid. Now, I showed in that video the incredible unemployment figures in South Africa since 1994, and how when they say want to go back to apartheid, the question that we should really be asking ourselves is, have we left? In terms of making the world and the country better for the majority black people of this nation, have we left apartheid? Because while black people now have the right to be in the cities, the only rights you've given them as the ANC is the right to see what they don't have, and also what they won't have access to thanks to your policies. And it's actually so much worse. Yes, we've gone through all of this, right? We've looked at the economic data. We've looked at how slow our country is growing, how economic growth, when you actually take into account the currency value, you realize that our economy is smaller today than what it's basically ever been before. But it gets so much worse, and actually so much sadder, where you read about children in the Eastern Cape dying as a result of hunger. Malnutrition and starvation is killing kids in South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, I want this to sink in. I want you to understand what we're talking about. As a nation, we have more farmland than most other nations. If you compare us to Europe, we have the resources to be a first world nation and stronger than almost all nations in Europe combined. That's how strong South Africa could be. No kid should ever go hungry in South Africa. The fact that they are tells us that there is something seriously wrong. And when you look at the Eastern Cape specifically, let there be no blame placed on the shoulders of apartheid or on the shoulders of white people. The Eastern Cape has been governed and ruled by the ANC since 1994. They have made every single rule for that province. They have overseen this humanitarian crisis, and it gets really bad. So when you listen to the provincial manager for the South African Human Rights Commission, had the following to say: I think the problem is too big for the province. Nchona said, it is running away from us. We need an outside force. By ourselves, there are lots of stop and goes and potholes that delay us. We are meeting in solemn and urgent circumstances. This is not a symbolic hearing, but it is symbolic. Because the ANC has no plan. The ANC has no way of fixing this, because the ANC's plan of action is always the following: what can we steal? What policies can we implement to increase the amount that we can steal? And then how can our friends steal from these policies and implementations? And then if all of the above has been satisfied, that's when the ANC will go, right, who can we help? Like, now that we've all eaten, all of us cadres have eaten at the trough, who can we help, right? There's a couple of scraps left. We'll give you a few here or there. You actually go through this. Earlier in the day on Thursday, the South African Human Rights Commission received data provided by the National Department of Health that stated that in the majority of cases, severely malnourished children died from other causes, including sepsis, acute diarrhea, shock, tuberculosis, meningitis, cardiac failure, heart failure, acute gastroenteritis, whatever the hell, pneumonia, and liver failure. Health Department records show that 973 children who had severe acute malnutrition died in facilities around the country. That's unacceptable. It is unacceptable that we have 973 children in South Africa dying of malnutrition. How can that be? The Director General of the Department of Social Development, Peter Nechepali, said in the Eastern Cape alone, as of August 2025, 1.8 million people were receiving the child support grant to the value of 1,068 rand per month. This isn't enough, by the way, but we also now know that thanks to this government and thanks to the policies of this government that cannot for the life of them create any sort of job, any sort of employment whatsoever, We know that there are far too many people that require the poverty grants than what the government can actually pay for. Just here, SASSA Executive Manager, Grants Administration Brenton van Vrede said it will cost the country 37 billion rand just to raise the child support grant to the food poverty line. So we're not even giving them more than enough to eat. If we just wanted to meet the bare minimum amount to ensure that a child can at least eat, we would need 37 billion rand extra on top of what we're already paying. And for those of you that don't know, we're already paying billions of rands every single year into paying for people who doesn't have a job because our government isn't creating any new jobs. If anything, if you look at what our government is doing, they're creating more unemployment. If this chart was reversed, this would actually be one of the most successful governments on earth. But okay, so I think we have done a lot. Now, this is where they pat themselves on the back, right? And they go, well, actually, we've done quite a lot here. But he added that the government needs to focus more on the problem, as it did with the HIV/AIDS pandemic. All of us must gather and decide to do it. That way we can win the battle. See how suddenly it becomes everyone's problem. No, we must all come together. We stole everything that wasn't nailed down at least. But now that the solutions need to come, now all of us must come together. Like we stole everything, but now you guys must all help us find solutions to these problems. The Department for Social Development, Ntuli, said the situation is deteriorating. Clearly, these are only words. From the presentation, it is clear that we are encouraging a culture of dependency, which is also inherently contradictory. The state admits that it doesn't have the financial resources to sustain this culture, to continue reacting to poverty and need by dishing out. At the same time, we all agree that this malnutrition should not be a problem. South Africa is a country rich in land. We feed the world. The majority of the food we produce, we export, yet we fail to feed our own children. This is not a problem of resources. It is a problem of how we manage these resources. Fundamentally, the problem comes from government. As I've shown time and time again on this channel, the government has failed at every single mandate that the people gave them. And no province in the country bears this out better than the Eastern Cape. Because the ANC and the ANC alone has been in charge of the Eastern Cape since 1994. So any failures, any sufferings of the people in the Eastern Cape belongs firmly to the ANC. Now, many of you might say, but why do the people in the Eastern Cape continue to vote for the ANC? And to that, I will simply say education. I showed it to you earlier, and I'm happy to show it to you again. If you look at the actual education rates of South Africa, it should not surprise you why so many people in this country hear from the government that, oh, apartheid is to blame, and they just believe it. Because education is what allows you to think critically about scenarios. So when a government official tells you, oh, it's apartheid, it is education that allows you to go, wait a second, apartheid is 31 years ago. The ANC has done a lot of things in the meantime that may have caused this problem. So within the context and the nuance of the conversation, I don't think we can just blame apartheid. But think about it from the perspective of someone who completely lacks the ability to think through that problem. Not because it's their fault, not because they're dumb, but because they are not educated. Because this government purposefully kept them out of the education system. When you look across the board at the black people of this country and their education, you find that it is incredibly bad. Every other group in this country, Indian, Asian, colored, they all reaped the benefits of 1994 and the opening of the economy. Even white people reaped some of the benefits. There's a lot of white people that are now unemployed, a lot of white people that are now suffering, but a lot of white people still reaped a lot of the benefits after 1994. The one group that our government continuously insists they're trying to save is the one group that isn't getting saved. It's the one group that are continually left behind. People keep voting for them. And so all I can say is my heart breaks for the kids of the Eastern Cape. And if you are living in the Eastern Cape, I beg you to give someone else a go. not the EFF, not the MK, because they will make this worse. I promise you they will make this worse. Because from their perspective, the problem can only be fixed by government. What you need to start realizing is the problem was created by government. The problem can only be solved by the government removing itself. If you like what I do and you like the content that I make, please consider hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, and leaving a comment, because engagement helps push out the video to more people so that we can get more people to actually get honest and truthful conversation. For all of the patrons and the YouTube channel members, thank you so much for your support. To become a patron, just hit the link in the description down below or hit the join button right below this video. As always, be good to each other, be kind to each other, and I will see all of you in the next one. Peace!